NTV, Central and Western Nebraska's most watched news. This is NTV News at noon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jessica Stevenson. This afternoon, we have reporters throughout the area covering the very latest in the storm, and we'll bring you updates as we get them. But first, Tim Wright joins us with a look at that weather. Tim.
Yeah, and Jessica, we are continuing to watch this precipitation move its way through. Now, we have been very fortunate that we've been able to keep road temps, surface temps at or just above freezing. Does not mean there aren't big issues in play. We continue to see the winter storm warning and the ice storm warnings in place here across the viewing area for much of the rest of the day, even into tonight. Here is a broad look at Viper radar as we continue to see right through the heart of the state. There are areas of rain, freezing rain, maybe even a little bit of snow mixed in. Now, the one thing I'm noticing is that the snow potential really is struggling. We'll put it that way, but the ice is certainly there. And then as we get into tonight, everything freezes once again. And I think we're still going to be looking at pretty tough travel conditions even into tomorrow. I'll talk more about that in your full forecast here in a few minutes.
Thanks, Tim. Now let's take a live look at the Grand Island with our Viera Wireless Camera Network. That's where NTV's Alyssa Willard and Carmen Montez are covering the storm. Alyssa, how's it looking out there?
Well, you know, it's still kind of wet and rainy out here. We're actually at the Bosselman Travel Center by the interstate near Grand Island, and Charles is joining me here. He is actually a semi-truck driver who has been stuck for a little bit. So you've got a long travel still to go. Where are you headed to?
I am headed to Las Vegas, Nevada.
And so what are you taking along with you?
Produce.
All right, and so you've been here since yesterday, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so what was it that made you decide that, okay, I need to stop?
It was the conditions of the road, and I decided to pull over to find out what is going on, and I found out about the accidents down the road from here. So I went ahead and stayed, and finding out the roads got worse, so I stayed.
Right, so I take it you're on the road a lot. How often do you come across this kind of situation, and what is it that makes you decide to stay?
It's just the weather conditions. You see a lot of drivers pulling over and you don't see much vehicles on the road. That's time to pull over and just call it a night.
And so when you do that, I guess you've been here a couple nights now, or one night at least anyway. So what do you kind of do to bide your time?
Mostly chit-chat with other drivers to find out what's going on, have some dinner, pretty much watch TV. That's about it.
And so when are you hoping to get back out on the road?
I'm hoping to be back on the road tomorrow morning. By the weather conditions, it's supposed to be better to leave going west.
And you said earlier that it's kind of up to your guys' own discretion, right?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Mm-hmm. And so you were just kind of checking it out to see what it would be like and decided, yeah, I need to stay out, especially after you heard about all the different accidents?
Yes, that's what I'm doing.
All right, so heading out tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
And lots more going on out here. Carmen's going to have a talk with a Bosselman worker herself to tell us what the traffic's been like out here and what she's been seeing firsthand as well. That's coming up later on on NTV News at noon. Back to you, Jessica, in the station.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. Now let's go to Holdridge, where NTV's Tara Gibbons is live. She's talking to a local pharmacist about how the storm is affecting patients. Tara.
Hi, Jessica. I'm here with Mike Corkery. He's at Shopco Pharmacy. And Mike, what advice do you have for people that can't make it out to the pharmacy today?
I'd stay at home. If you absolutely need something, you can give us a call, and we'll figure out something. Either we'll need to deliver it to you if we absolutely have to, but we prefer not to do any deliveries today if possible.
And what if you need a delivery? You just said just call the Shopco Pharmacy, the main line.
Right. Yep. Just call us and talk to us here in the pharmacy, and we'll make arrangements if we have to.
And how many people came in today? Did people come in?
We've had only about 3 or 4 people all morning, so it's been pretty slow.
And have they been coming in because due to falling on the ice, or just coming in for the regular medication?
For some been medicines and buying some over-the-counter products.
And what advice would you give to people if they do fall, if they come into the pharmacy? Just take Tylenol, or do you have anything?
For pain, or ibuprofen, something like that, and put ice on it, which if they fell on the ice. But anyway, put ice on it. That'll keep the swelling down and keep the bruising down.
All right, well, thank you for that awesome advice. I'll send it back to you in the studio, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Tara. All excellent advice. Nebraska State Patrol is cautioning people about heading out today. NSP highly discourages anyone from traveling unless absolutely necessary. But if you have to go out on the roads, check 511 before hitting the road. This is a live look at the road conditions across the state now. Green routes mean driving conditions are normal. The roads in blue mean those roads are partially covered in ice or snow, and pink means those roads are completely covered in ice, snow, or slush. One Kansas State trooper experienced those dangerous conditions firsthand. This is a dash cam recording posted by Kansas trooper Todd Hillman yesterday morning. According to Hillman, another trooper saw the semi-truck driving too fast for the conditions. The driver lost control and crossed the median, entering oncoming traffic, almost hitting the trooper's car. No one was hurt. Crews for South Central Power District are working through the conditions to bring back power to customers in the area. Around 200 to 300 customers are without power as of 10:50 this morning. The power company says the outages were caused by ice, conductor breakages, and tree branches falling onto the lines. While crews are working, the road conditions are making it difficult. There's still no estimated time for when power will be restored. Now let's check in with NTV's Iffy Sinachi Ibo Simba, who's in Kearney checking things out. Iffy, how are things looking?
Good afternoon, Jessica. That's right, we're in Kearney. The rain continuing to come down. I'm joined by State Trooper Jeff Boston, and you cover an area that spans from Elm Creek to Shelton. Can you tell me about what the conditions are looking like in those areas?
Right now we have the roads are wet. But we do have some areas where they're icy and slick. So people just need to be really careful when they're out there and pay attention to the road surfaces.
Absolutely. And are there any areas in particular that are bad or any road closures that we need to know about at this time?
There's no current road closures. People can go to the 511 map and see if there are any closures or if there are any accidents.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that update. We really appreciate you. And of course, you guys, we're talking about the ice accumulation out here today. I just want to show you guys, this is a tree branch that we just picked off of a tree like about 5 minutes ago. Look at this accumulation. This is what is happening not only to plants, but on the roads. This rain is falling and it's freezing. You guys, you definitely don't want to be out driving in this. So as I'm sure you've been hearing all day, please stay at home if at all possible. But if you do have to get out here on the roads, you want to make sure you're being as careful as you possibly can. Live in Kearney, Iffy Sinachi Ibo Simba for NTV News. Jessica, back to you.
Thank you so much, Iffy. Be careful out there. Tim Wright joins us now with a check of that forecast. Tim?
Yeah, and some great looks at exactly what we're seeing across the viewing area. And for most of us, it's the same story. We continue with the rain and freezing rain kind of mixing together. And don't underestimate some of those roads, because there are going to be portions of the highway that seem to be just fine, but all it takes is one slick spot and you could have some big problems. So we'll continue with a wintry mix possible through this evening, and then overnight, skies will clear out a little bit. The wintry mix comes to an end, but then we have to worry about all this moisture refreezing during the overnight hours. I'll talk more about that coming up next.
Thanks, Tim. We'll have much more on the ice storm as we continue to track it throughout central Nebraska, bringing you the very latest coverage. Stay with us.
Time for First Alert Weather with Tim Wright, certified by the American Meteorological Society for excellence in weather forecasting.
All right, welcome back here on this Monday. Hopefully you've been able to stay home, stay inside, and not have to be out traveling in this mess of weather that we have. Now, as we get towards this evening, the snow, the wintry mix, going to gradually be coming to an end. But just because the precipitation comes to an end does not mean we're in the clear, because overnight, 27 and 19 tomorrow morning. That means all of this moisture, all of that liquid that's just kind of sitting on top of the ice, it's all going to refreeze. And I think we're going to have big problems even tomorrow morning with travel conditions. Very preliminary ice reports, I want to stress that, but Osborne, Kansas, Fairbury, Plymouth approaching a ½ inch of ice out of this. Grand Island and Clay Center about 3/10 of an inch of ice. And you know, honestly, anytime you're about 1/10 of an inch, you're going to have travel issues. You get to that quarter to half inch, that's when you start to worry about those power lines and potential ice problems. And boy, it's a large part of the viewing area that saw between about a quarter and a half inch of ice already by this morning. And by the time it's all said and done, some places will end up between about a half inch and 3/4 of an inch. So yeah, this is pretty widespread, and it certainly is an issue. Winter storm warnings, ice storm warnings continue here across the viewing area, and rightly so, as we continue to see a large swath of moisture right through the heart of the state. Now, if you want one piece of good news out of this, that's a lot of moisture, and eventually it is going to do some good, but it's causing some big headaches right now. You're getting a bit of a break here to the southwest. That's certainly welcome news. Now, something you're not seeing a lot of is the transition over to snow. That has been a real struggle so far. Still anticipating that it will change over to snow, but I think our snowfall accumulations are going to be very low out of this. The bigger story is the ice. We continue to see a mix of rain and freezing rain right through the heart of the Tri-Cities towards Central City. And boy, just be careful as you're out and about. Live look at Superior right now with the NTV Viera Wireless Camera Network. You can see the ice on the trees. I have a good friend that lives in Superior. Just had a large tree branch fall in his backyard, tore up a little bit of his siding on the side of his house. This is what we're talking about as we progress. The winds are going to pick up, and these branches, they got a lot of weight on them. That's certainly going to be the potential for problems. Now look at the temps, okay? Look at us just hovering 32 to 34 degrees. I cannot tell you enough or stress enough that if we were running about 3 to 4 degrees colder than this, how much even more of a problem this would be. We've talked about it the last several days that a swing of 2 to 3 degrees either way could make a huge difference. And thankfully we've been trending a little warmer, but it's still a big problem. North winds are 15 to 20. They could gust 25 to 30. That's when those winds pick up later today, that we could have some issues with some power outages and those tree branches coming down. So everything should gradually come to an end. Your futurecast may be a little over aggressive with the snow potential. Tonight, I think because everything freezes again, the roads could remain very slick. Tomorrow we will start to clear out, the sunshine builds back in, and we start to melt things off a little bit. 32, so we just kind of stay put as we go through the day, right at that freezing mark. Tonight, 19 expected for the low. Tomorrow, we're up to 38. Should thaw out pretty well. But even tomorrow night then, got to watch for some refreezing issues. So low 30s for the most part today. Temps tonight dropping down into the upper teens, around 20, and highs tomorrow in the upper 30s. Get past these next couple of days, it's pretty nice. We got well into the 40s by the middle of the work week. Might see a little bit of a light rain snow mix Friday into Saturday, but man, Wednesday and Thursday are going to feel like a vacation compared to this. Again, it's dangerous out there with these roads. They're very misleading because some spots are okay, some spots are not. It's best just to either, if you have to be out, slow way down, or just stay home if you can.
Ideal situation.
Exactly.
Stay home. Thank you so much, Tim.
Yep.
And as conditions get more dangerous, it's important to keep things in mind in case you lose power. Mark Becker from Nebraska Public Power District joins us now over the phone.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for joining us. So what kind of calls have you been getting so far today?
Well, actually, we had a pretty good day yesterday and early to this morning with no outages reported, but around 11:40 or so, we did have an outage due to the weather in York, and so we have about 60 to 70 customers that are currently out there at this time. Crews are responding, and we hope to have them on a little bit later this afternoon.
Great. Are you expecting any other power outages later today or even into tomorrow?
I think what we have here is a weather conditions that we're going to continue to follow to see what's happening. Do we get more ice? And we'll continue to watch what might be the impact on the power lines, either at what we call distribution, which are the lines that go to homes and businesses, or to transmission and sub-transmission lines that bring in the energy into substations across the state. So we'll continue to monitor the situation as the weather progresses.
Now, in situations like these where we're kind of expecting this bad storm, do you do anything to try to prepare in case of an outage?
Well, from an MPPD standpoint, we last Friday, when we knew that this was coming, we had our trucks fueled up. All equipment was staged and ready to go for each truck and make sure they had enough equipment. And so we always do that. But we also do tabletop exercises to simulate storm conditions and how we would react to that. I think the big thing is for people who are in their homes who might lose their power is to be prepared there. One thing we always encourage people to do is leave their refrigerator or freezers closed. That'll keep their food in there as cool as possible. The other thing, too, is not to go near down power lines or even attempt to move them. Let the trained professionals from either Nebraska Public Power District or other public power districts across the state to move those down power lines.
And if people do lose power other than keeping their food cold, how should they reach out to you to report an outage?
Well, an NPPD customer, which is anyone who gets a bill from NPPD, could call 1-877-275-6773, or it's 1-877-ASK-NPPD. They can report that to our customer care center, and they will make sure that people are aware of that.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. We appreciate you speaking with us, and hopefully we don't see any more power outages in your area.
Hope we all stay safe.
Yes, thank you very much. Now let's take a live look at Hastings with the Viero wireless camera. Colleen Williams is in Hastings and is joining us now via Skype with an update of the conditions. Colleen, how are things looking over there?
You know, I was listening to Tim and his weather report, and I'm nodding my head going, yes, that's exactly what we're experiencing here in Hastings. It is deceiving. A steady rain for hours, but it is turning to slush and creating giant puddles on the frozen ground. But we know if that temperature drops just a few degrees, we're going to be looking at a very serious situation. Hastings College has canceled classes, as have other area schools. I spoke with Hastings Public Power earlier today. They did experience a power outage. Crews have gotten power up and running for the entire town. I should mention it is icy and wet, extremely dangerous circumstances for these power crews to be working in. For nearly an hour and a half, one of the largest grocery stores in town, Russ's, was without power. Backup generators kept things running. And I should mention, I'm sorry. I have to wipe my nose. I apologize. That has to be the worst thing for you viewers at home if you were seeing that my nose was running. But you know what? That's what happens when you're standing outside in a rainstorm. I was going to say Russ's did not get a bread delivery today, but they do have a built-in bakery, so there will be bread on the shelves. I also spoke with another major retailer in town, Allen's. It is business as usual. They are prepared for whatever Mother Nature throws their way, but they have they are open for business. One other thing worth mentioning, I spoke with a certified arborist, and if you have trees, smaller trees, and you can safely shake some of the ice off of them, you can use a broom and push them up and shake off the ice. That could potentially save your limbs from falling. Just be careful, but there is a chance to save some of those limbs by shaking off the ice. Just don't pull the tree down. So Jessica, back to you.
Thank you so much, Colleen. Go inside and get a tissue. Get warm. Thank you so much. We'll be right back with your ag news, and we'll check in with Ronnie Lewis as well, who's tracking the storm from Oxford. Stay with us. Time now for a look at your ag news. Joe Ganglish is joining us for KRVN via Skype. Joe, are you keeping warm?
We are keeping warm. I'm glad I can be inside today and not have to be outdoors bringing you a weather report. But here's a quick weather report from what we're seeing in the Lexington area. Of course, just like Colleen is seeing in Hastings, we've had a steady rain since earlier on this morning. We had very slick parking lots, as a lot of folks had earlier on this morning. Our main streets, they kept a good job of keeping things cleared off, keeping them, salt on them so we can make them passable. But the side streets were very slick earlier on in Lexington this morning, and we've had a steady rain on top of that ice. And we're expected to get about an inch of snow here in Lexington around the Dawson County area. So no doubt with the dropping temperatures, it's going to get slick again tonight. So please allow yourself some extra time. Stay off the roads even if you don't have to travel today, because things will get slick again. You can find more weather info, of course, at krvn.com. Quick look at some ag info for you. U.S. Supreme Court will hear a legal challenge as to whether an appeals court in Cincinnati is the proper venue for a number of lawsuits filed on the waters of the U.S. rule. On Friday, the High Court ruled it would hear a petition by the National Association of Manufacturers, which had challenged a U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling that it is the proper court to consider the cases. The appeals court ruling had led to more than 100 cases being consolidated in the Sixth Circuit. Now, although the High Court granted the petition on Friday, the case is dealing with jurisdiction and does not get the merits of the waters of the U.S. rule itself. M. Reed Hopper is principal attorney for the Pacific Legal Foundation. That is the group representing plaintiffs in the case. He said he believes the High Court will determine the Sixth Circuit Court does not have the jurisdiction in those cases. You could read more about that at krvn.com. Also, one seed company president believes the merger between the seed and chemical giants Dow and DuPont will be good for American agriculture. Tom Burris is president of Burris Hybrids in Illinois. That is a seed corn, soybean, and alfalfa marketer in the Midwest. He believes the merger of Dow and DuPont is good for farm country. He says combining the two companies, which have research and development capabilities that complement one another, that would drive a faster pace of innovation to provide farmers with novel combinations of traits and competitive products and prices. He said, we operate licensing and distribution models to access the most competitive germplasm and seed traits. His opinion is that the combined company will be well equipped to compete with other major players in the seed industry. Of course, the markets are closed today in observance of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, but we do have lots of ag information for you. Just go to krvn.com for that, and lots of weather info, including closings and cancellations at krvn.com. Also on our new mobile app, and you can follow along with us. Lots of weather updated information all throughout the day today at 8:80 a.m. and 106.9 FM. There in the Kearney area. So, Jessica, you stay safe. Stay inside if you can, okay?
Thank you so much. I'll try, and you too. When it comes to looking up the latest in ag news, head on over to our website, nebraska.tv, and click on NTV's Grow. Could pro athletes soon be changing the way they play the game? Faced with a new viewership with shorter attention spans, the NBA, NFL, and MLB are looking into ways to keep fans engaged. Here's a look at some changes sports fans may be in for.
Screen drives and misses.
Timeouts.
Team timeout.
Commercial breaks.
Hey, tomorrow, NFC.
Replays.
Great shot, pressure.
Fouls.
Defense, number 2.
A big part of every game. But more and more millennials are getting fed up and tuning out, saying games have become way too long.
We're waiting here for anything, Joe.
This morning, the NBA, joining the NFL and Major League Baseball, calling for new ways to shorten game times as ratings take a plunge.
People, particularly millennials, have increasingly short attention spans, so it's something, as a business, we need to pay attention to.
NBA Commissioner Adam Silver noted that the NBA's competition committee will be taking a closer look at game length, particularly those last few minutes with so many timeouts. This game between the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder, with 24 seconds left to go, the game didn't end until almost 9 minutes later. Americans under the age of 30 now watch 50% less television than they did in 2010, which is part of the reason Major League Baseball made a new rule last year, limiting the time managers can spend on the mound talking to pitchers to 30 seconds, which seemed like a good way to speed up the game. But then that pesky instant replay added 5 minutes right back. The average length of a regular season game is adding up to 3 hours and 8 minutes. That's 6 minutes longer than games played in 2008. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell telling the New York Times, we want to take as much what we call dead time, non-action out of the game so that we can make the game more exciting.
All the time that we're not watching the greatest athletes on earth do what they're best at, that is a disservice to us as a total fan base.
And we'll be right back after this break. Well, let's take a look at those headlines now. One Kansas State trooper experienced dangerous driving conditions firsthand. This is a dash cam recording posted by Kansas trooper Todd Hillman yesterday morning. According to Hillman, another trooper saw the semi-truck driving too fast for the conditions. The driver lost control and crossed the median entering oncoming traffic, almost hitting the trooper's car. No one was hurt. Crews for South Central Public Power District are working throughout the conditions to bring back power to customers in the area. Around 200 to 300 customers are without power as of 10:50 this morning. The power company says the outages were caused by ice, conductor breakages, and tree branches falling onto the lines. While crews are working, the road conditions are making it difficult. There's still no estimated time for when power will be restored. Things are getting icy and roads across the area are looking to get worse. NTV's Ronnie Lewis is tracking things over in Oxford. Ronnie, how's it looking?
Hey, good afternoon, I should say, Jessica. We are live at the hotspot in Oxford. We are at the Ampride C store. Traffic has been steady here. I got to say, I talked to the Harlan County Sheriff's Department, and they have seen slushy roads, but no accidents. Talked to the Furness County Sheriff's deputy here just about 10 minutes ago. He said the roads are slushy, but slick, so please do use caution. But he said there's no accidents reported in Furness County. And I also talked to the Red Willow Sheriff's Department, and there has been no accidents reported, but roads there in McCook and surrounding areas are really, really, really slick. So they say do use caution. Right here in the big town of Oxford, the utilities department took steps to keep things moving and stuff. What they did is they pre-treated the main roads and some of the side roads that go through town, and they also have their employees on standby in case of a power outage. So small town Oxford, small town America is kind of prepared for this to happen. Back to you, Jess.
Thanks so much, Ronnie, and so happy to hear people seem to be driving safe in your area. Now here's a live look at Kearney with our Viera wireless camera, and we'll have a report from Kearney in just a little bit. But first, Tim Wright joins us now with the Weather Center with a check of that forecast. Tim?
Yeah, good look there. That's the street right by UNK. Normally that's a pretty busy stretch in Kearney. There was one car out, and that's probably good news because it is a little misleading out there. As Ronnie said, it's slushy, but underneath that slush is a thin layer of ice. In some places, a thick layer of ice, and you know, it's one of those instances where you're driving along, everything's fine, suddenly you hit a slick spot. It's best just to stay off these roads. Now out to the southwest, things have kind of come to an end for now, but we still have a band of light to moderate freezing rain and rain that continues here in central Nebraska, even up here to the north. And really with the temperature profiles we've seen, it's this area here, Albion to Norfolk, maybe towards Columbus, up towards O'Neill. That's where we're probably going to see the most significant icing the rest of the afternoon. But what we have falling here in central Nebraska, eventually that's going to freeze again overnight, and I think cause some big headaches. We continue with our winter storm warnings and our ice storm warnings. Now there are a few counties that you'll notice shaded in purple that have been kind of downgraded, so to speak, to a winter weather advisory. Temps continue to hold in the low 30s. That's about where they'll stay. The winds, though, are picking up, and that's a big problem because that means those tree branches are going to be swaying the power lines. We're going to have to watch for the potential of outages as we go through the rest of the day. And the temps, the precip, everything gradually winds down later on tonight. Jessica?
Thanks, Tim. Now let's get a quick look at road conditions across Nebraska. While NSP highly discourages anyone from traveling unless absolutely necessary, if you have to go out on the roads, be sure to check 511 before hitting the road. This is a live look at 511. As a quick reminder, green means driving conditions are normal. Blue means those roads are partially covered in ice or snow, and pink means those roads are completely covered in ice, snow, or slush. Moments ago, we took a live look at Kearney with the Viera Wireless Camera Network. That's where NTV's Aisha Aubrey is checking things out. Aisha, where are you exactly?
Hi, Jessica. I'm here on 2nd Avenue where you can see behind me the roads are pretty clear right here. We have travelers coming up and down. And I spoke to Buffalo County Sheriff's Office and they told me the side roads and the residential streets are the ones you need to watch out for. Those are really slick. Now, areas like this, main roads, these are pretty good to travel on. I can even take you over here right here on the road. And you can see right here, this is pretty slushy. It's not much ice. It's really a lot of slush here. As you can travel on down, you can see down there, there's much slush down there too. And I even took went around in Kearney to look at the different areas around here, to residential areas, to main roads, and the residential areas, had a lot of ice. I saw sheets of ice. And the main roads really had a lot of slush on them. Some areas had ice on them in Kearney. And just to switch over to another topic, I spoke to the Public Power District here in Nebraska about the Kearney area, and they told me everything is fine. No one has called about power outages, but if you do have a power outage, just contact them and they'll help you as much as possible. Live in Kearney on 2nd Avenue, NTV News, Aisha Aubrey. Back to you, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Be safe out there. And from Kearney, now let's head over to Grand Island where Steve White is tracking conditions. Steve, how's it looking? Oh, it looks like Steve isn't in right now, but we'll be right back with a look at your health news. Welcome back. Now let's head back over to Grand Island where Steve White is tracking those conditions. Steve, how are things looking?
Hey, Jessica. Well, I'm reporting live from my car right now. I just came back from a farm about 10 miles outside of Grand Island. So getting a little perspective on what folks in agriculture do on a day like this, especially if you're working with cattle. Boy, these are pretty difficult conditions to be out in. I was out with a guy. He had to be busy chopping ice, trying to make sure that the cattle could get water. Also, making sure to get lots of feed out there to keep cattle hungry. Hungry cattle on a day like this, you want to make sure to give them extra feed just to make sure that they're able to, with the metabolism and the cold and all of that to deal with things. And of course, they're also watching for power outages. Haven't heard too much in that way around the Grand Island area, so that's fortunate. But for folks in agriculture, it's tough right now. I got a note from a guy named Joe from Deweese. He said he was out there feeding extra alfalfa. And Lance down by Air said he was out there checking on those cattle as well. Mark down from Davenport checked in as well. And lots of ice on the fence posts around there. This is a time of year where a lot of cattle are out there grazing on corn stalks. I imagine a lot of those stalks now are pretty well iced over. So folks out there making sure that the cattle are getting enough to eat right now. And the other factor right now, calving season, that's just getting underway now, but this is the time of year where a lot of calves are really going to start to be born, and we have heard from a handful of folks who are out there bringing some new calves in and bringing them into some structures, bringing them into the house even if they have to. Cattlemen a lot of times go to pretty great lengths to care for those newborns, those baby cows, the calves that are coming out there. So it's always it always seems in these storms, it always seems to hit right when somebody's out there calving. So we enjoy hearing from people who are dealing with those situations. And if you got any of those kinds of things going on, we want to hear from you, specifically folks in agriculture, for our GROW program. You can email us grow@nebraska.tv. We'd love to see some of your photos and hear some of your stories out there. And for folks who are wondering, just in terms of how do you care for cattle on a day like this? Are they getting cold? Well, a couple of things to keep in mind. First of all, their coat gets thicker this time of year, so the cattle have a little more natural protection. And the other thing is a lot of those cattle will naturally huddle together, and the body warmth, they'll share that. Now, still, it's tough in any time you get this kind of weather. I was out with a farmer named Judd. He says he would much rather have snow than this ice. The ice just soaks into everything. It's just nasty. He would rather have, a couple inches of snow out there than this. But you take what you get and you have to deal with it, and that's what cattlemen are doing. So that's kind of what I'm checking in on, and we'll have much more on that later tonight on NTV.
Thanks so much, Steve. Definitely lots of added work for our farmers today. Time now for your noon checkup. One Nebraska senator is speaking out against the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Senator Deb Fischer gave the weekly GOP address over the weekend. In the address, she talked about the impact of the Affordable Care Act on local Nebraskans.
Jim, a grandfather from Grand Island, Nebraska, says this: "Our kids' new insurance premiums went up 36%, which is over 50% of their income. This leaves my grandkids with no insurance." Tim from Kearney, Nebraska, saw his health insurance premium jump 60%. Obamacare's financial cost is well known, but it has another hidden cost. One you can't count with dollars and cents. It's an emotional toll. The worry that comes from a lack of control.
Last week, both the House and Senate voted to start the repeal process for the healthcare law. More health and fitness news can be found at nebraska.tv. Click on the health link under the news section. Here's now a look at the weather and there and throughout the area during Tim's forecast next.
First Alert Weather with Tim Wright, certified by the American Meteorological Society for excellence in weather forecasting.
All right, welcome back. We continue to feel the impacts and see the impacts of this major winter storm as it continues to kind of work its way here through the Plain States. 30, 27, and 19. Now, as we go through the overnight hours, we will see the precipitation come to an end. But those temps are going to drop well below freezing, which means any of that moisture that's still hanging around is going to freeze, obviously. Now, these are some very preliminary ice totals as of 5 a.m. There's been more since then, but about a ½ inch, Osborne, Fairbury. I will now mention that around Fairbury, it's now up closer to 3/4 of an inch. Plymouth, which is over by Fairbury, about 4/10 of an inch, 3/10 for Grand Island, Clay Center. And keep in mind, a lot of these totals will go up from what we had this morning, but for the most part, a good 1/4 of an inch already fell early this morning, and we've had more accumulation since then. Okay. The winter storm warning remains in place, as does the ice storm warning. We've seen a few counties now be switched over to a winter weather advisory. And something to really take note of. I think tonight, while the road crews are doing a fantastic job, when we get into the overnight hours and those temps drop well below freezing, I do think slick roads are going to be a problem tomorrow morning. I think we'll have a lot of late starts, maybe even still some cancellations with area schools and businesses tomorrow. Live look at Viper radar, and you'll notice that right through the heart of the state is where we have the heaviest moisture falling right now. Holdridge to Phillipsburg, back towards the Tri-Cities. We continue to see a steady light to moderate, kind of a mix of freezing rain and rain. That's how the temperature profile is in the atmosphere right now. Up to the north, this is really where you have potential for more icing, is especially here in the Northeast where the temps are just a little bit colder, but just be aware it's one of those days you really don't want to be out all that much. Here's a live look at Aurora. We're kind of looking to the south in Aurora with the NTV Vero wireless camera network. Okay, roads look okay. Notice the semi here, really taking it easy though. And sure, the roads are going to be fine in some places. It's 32 right now. We're right at freezing. All it takes is that one slick spot though. That's all it takes. So make sure that if you are out and about today that you are really paying extra attention. The temps are hovering either side of freezing for most of you, and that makes it so tricky. I will say this, if we were running about 3 to 4 degrees colder than this would be an even bigger nightmare than the way it is already for some of you. North winds are picking up 15 to 20. What's that mean? The ice on the power lines will start to sway. Some of those tree branches could be some big problems with all the weight that is on those branches and the power lines. Now your futurecast kind of overdoing the snow potential. That's the one thing we haven't seen develop, is that snow band kind of on the back end of this system. Now there will still be the potential of some snow, but I think our accumulations are really going to be low with this. Now tomorrow, the good news is we eventually warm back up. By the mid to late morning hours, we'll start to kind of melt things off, but early tomorrow morning, those roads are still going to be pretty treacherous. Right at 32 this afternoon, we just kind of stick with the same temp, very steady. Tonight we drop to 19. Yes, the precip comes to an end. That does not mean the roads won't be a little treacherous tonight. We should get up to about 38, good melting weather as we get into our Tuesday. So highs today, low 30s, pretty much just steady. They really haven't changed much today. Upper teens on the way tonight. Temps tomorrow should be back in the upper 30s. Now, 7-day forecast, middle of the week looking pretty good. We're back well into the 40s. Got a little bit of a rain-snow mix Friday into Saturday that we'll keep an eye on, but boy, today, again, if you don't have to be out, it's a good day to just stay put. But don't be fooled by the roads. They're kind of slushy, but there is ice underneath, and as I mentioned, all it takes is one slick spot.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Tim. Here's another live look at Grand Island with our Vero wireless camera network. NTV's Carmen Montez and Alyssa Willard have been braving the ice and cold to track the storm there. Carmen is joining us now with an update. Carmen, how's it looking? All right, sorry about that. Right now, Regina is going to be joining us to take a look at what it looks like outside the station after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Here's a live look at the McCook Vero wireless camera.
Yeah, we've been showing you the cameras all across the state. You can really see the ice kind of off in the background there. Notice, though, the traffic flowing along pretty nicely, kind of taking it easy. Now, we, of course, have been bringing you coverage throughout, last night, today, And somebody who is not getting enough credit is our own meteorologist, Regina Bird, who has spent the night here. Kent was here all night as well. Regina, you're right outside the door there at the station here. What do we got going on?
Yeah, we are still seeing some light freezing rain falling here, so slick spots, but as Tim was talking about during his forecast, the big concern is going to be tonight, really, as we see temperatures drop well below freezing. That means any wet spots going to freeze. We're looking at slick spots definitely going to be a concern, and we have seen many reports of tree limbs down, that ice heavy enough to break some branches, and we are seeing some of those reports out of Minden just recently, and we continue to see those reports coming in, and I think we'll continue to see branches falling, and that ice even weighing on power lines could be a concern as well. We'll also see winds picking up as the day goes on, and that also going to put some stress on any trees, seeing the ice accumulating there. But even out here, we are seeing slick spots on the cement. We are seeing a little bit of ice also accumulating on areas around here. We are seeing, if we wait just a second, there is a plow and they are treating the roads for sure. If you can see right behind me, he's coming through and they're putting salt down on the road. So I know those crews working very hard, and they will continue to work hard throughout the day today and even into the day tomorrow. And power crews working hard to get any power outage areas back on and power on for everybody. But we'll continue to keep you updated throughout the day today, even into tonight, and of course throughout the rest of the week. But thankfully temperatures do warm up later on, even tomorrow above freezing expected. But of course Tim will have all the details and more coming up in just a few minutes.
Yeah, and a big thank you to Regina and Kent for all your work overnight, and as she mentioned, a huge thank you to the road crews, the power companies, all of you who are out there braving this mess, trying to make sure everything gets going like it should. We cannot thank you enough.
Yes, thank you, thank you. And now let's head on over to the Holdridge, where NTV's Valerie Juarez is tracking things. Valerie, how's it looking?
It's actually pretty, I didn't think it was going to be this, bad. I'm seeing right now, ice on trees and power lines. I think the big question is going to be whether, once the ice starts, coming down these power lines, it could be, a safety issue. On my way out here, we were driving on Highway 6, and surprisingly, the roads were not as bad as I expected. Cars were driving about 45 miles per hour, and I was taking the safer route, going 15 miles per hour. But, I would still say that there were some vehicles traveling, I would say pretty close to 60 miles per hour. And once I got to Holdridge, there was a lot of flooding going on the side streets, and you can see a lot of the ice accumulation starting to happen in different, on branches of trees and, different parts, on the grass as well. Another thing that I did notice is that on the ground, although it may be wet, the one thing is you might have to watch out for is how it could be a little slippery, and in the sense of it could feel like an ice skating ring. But these are the conditions out here in Holdridge, but we'll definitely keep you updated throughout the day for the latest weather conditions out here.
Thank you so much, Valerie. We'll be right back with the final check of your forecast. Welcome back, and now Tim Wright has a final check of that forecast.
Yeah, and we continue to see the winter storm warnings, the ice storm warnings in place. A few counties here and there have been kind of switched over to a winter weather advisory. Now these run really into the nighttime hours, and the precipitation has continued. We have continued to see areas of freezing rain and rain really all across central Nebraska and right through the heart of the Tri-Cities. We have been stuck under this since really about 3-4 o'clock this morning, and the only real good news is that we've managed to keep those temps at or just above freezing, which I cannot even describe to you how much of a difference that is making. With that said, as we get into tonight, while the precip ends, temps are going to fall back below freezing, which means all of this moisture. Valerie had a great shot of it. There are some puddles just kind of sitting on top of the ice. That's all going to freeze as we get into tonight. So anticipate slick roads already again for tomorrow morning, and just stay safe.
Please do, yes, stay off those roads. Stay home.
Yes, if you can, stay home. If you must be out, because I know some of you must, slow and steady. No need to rush, okay?
Always assume there's ice.
There you go.
Yep. Thank you so much for joining us.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.